Hey there, mums and dads. Well, welcome to the Putting It Into Practice Challenge for Module 2. There's a lot of fun activities in this module, so please make sure you go through them with your kids, because remember, it is these practical applications that will help your kids take the knowledge they're getting from the videos and learn how to apply them and think about them in real life settings. So what we're going to have in this particular homework task, and I'm going to go through them with you in just a minute, but what we're going to have is going to have the opportunity for your kids to teach you how to budget. We're going to have discussions around needs and wants and how you would spend money. We've got a couple of videos in there. We've got a quiz in there. So we're using all sorts of modalities to make this a really fun experience for your kids. All that needs to happen now, mums and dads, is that you need to show up and make it happen with them, because this is so important. So there we go. I'm going to flip over to my screen now and start talking you through the homework for this module. Okay, the first thing that I want you to do is watch video 1 of Module 2, the basics of budgeting. In this video, I take you through the system or the strategy that my grandma used to teach me to budget when I was 18 years old. This is a system using physical glass jars and physical money. Very simple, but very, very powerful. The second thing that I want you to do is watch the second video, which is the 6 principles of a successful budget. So basically, I go through the system that my grandma taught me and pull out the 6 key principles that are the foundation of a successful budget. Then, what I would like you to do, and this is really important because if you've watched the video on the importance of practical application, I talked to you about the fact that the best way of learning is when we take a skill or take some knowledge that we've learnt in a training program or something like that, and we then try and teach it to someone else. So here, what I'm asking you to do is get your team to teach you how to budget using the principles of Grandma's Jars budgeting. So have a look at those first 2 videos, then I want your team to turn around using envelopes, jars, cups, and Monopoly money. It doesn't even matter if you've got paper torn up with dollar figures on them. It doesn't matter, but I want them then to teach you those principles of budgeting according to Grandma's system. Fourth thing is to take a photo of them teaching you about budgeting and email me a copy of it. And then I would love you to post it in the Facebook group to encourage others to do the same. So take a picture of them while they're budgeting. You can see on the screen there's a picture of my Hannah going through and teaching me how to budget. Please do this. It's a fun thing to do, and it encourages others to do the same. The 5th thing, if your teen is up to it. Now, I understand that not everyone likes being on film, on a camera. They hate the sound of their voice. They hate the way they look. But if your teen is one of those entrepreneurial types that is quite happy to get up and teach others how to budget, I'd love you to film it and send it to me. That would be absolutely fantastic. And then the last thing that you need to do, and this is just for you parents, go back through and watch video 1 of Module 2 in the parent section, Raising a Budgeting Superstar. In this video, I take you through the 3 phases of introducing your teens, or your kids in fact, to a budget, getting them involved in a budget, then how they can start to take on some of that budget themselves and manage themselves, and then ultimately, once they've got their own income, typically a part-time job, how they can manage their budget with their income. So there's 3 phases there that I take you through, and the sooner you can get that started, because ideally you would start this with kids when they're somewhere between 8 and 12 years old. It doesn't matter where you're starting right now, but please watch the video, have a think about where you're at and how you might apply it with your teens right now. Okay, so the second task, let's have a look at this. The first thing I'd like you to do is download the budgeting worksheets from below this video. You'll also see that there's typical household expenses worksheet. Now, with the budgeting worksheets, these are a comprehensive list of expenses. I give these to all my financial coaching clients to help them identify what their expenses are. So you'll see on the right-hand side, this is a snapshot of what the budgeting worksheet looks like. You'll see that we've got the heading every day, and then we've got a whole lot of expenses underneath that. Then we've got utilities and a whole lot of expenses under that, and communications and so on. So the whole worksheet is basically a comprehensive list of expenses broken up into categories. I'd encourage you parents to have a look through this before you get on with the first task, because the typical household expenses worksheet, what that then is just basically the headings. So everyday, utilities, communication, car. And what I would like you to do is go through that worksheet with your teens. Ask your teens to try and identify what expenses they would expect to see in each category. Now, of course, they're going to have no idea with some of the categories, but with other categories, they're going to be pretty good. So if you ask them, for instance, what might be under a car category, they might be able to tell you that there's some maintenance and there's some registration and some insurance. But what I'd like you to do is get them to start writing in the squares for each category what they think the expenses are, and you can guide them through that process. The fourth part of that process then is to ask your teen, once you've got all the expenses under each category, what do they think each expense is worth? This is always a really interesting exercise because teens rarely have any idea what things cost, and this is a really good way to give them a real understanding of what it costs to run a household. The fifth thing that we want to do then, and this is super important because understanding what all your expenses are is the key to having a successful budget. There's nothing worse than starting a budget and then, a month down the track or 2 weeks down the track, a whole lot of expenses come in that you simply were not anticipating, and it completely throws your budget out. So to try and get the best understanding of what your expenses are to start with, will always help you succeed with budgeting. But in this case, what I would like you to do, one of the things that helps us understand what our expenses are, is to start writing down every dollar we spend so we get a real feel for where all the little bits go. The daily coffees, the bought lunches, the groceries, and so on. That's going to help us get a feel for it. Now, 7 days really isn't enough, but this is just a 1 week challenge. So over the next 7 days, I would like both of you, both your teen and yourself, to commit separately to writing down every dollar you spend and then to discuss what you find. Are there expenses there that are more than you thought? Do all the little bits add up a lot more than you anticipated? Just have a discussion around those sorts of things. Task number 3 is all about understanding needs and wants. From all the surveys that I've done, this is a really big topic for parents. So this video is a great way to kick it off. Please watch the video. You'll see that there's a link you can click on in the notes, which are again below this video on the Putting Into Practice worksheet. So go through that. Then what we want to do is have a look at some questions. The first one is discuss the video with your kids and ask them, discuss with them, is spending $1,200 on a Louis Vuitton bag reasonable? Now, I think they call it a signature tote or something like that. I just call it a bag because I don't really know the difference. But there we go. I want you to discuss that with your kids. Then, what I want you to discuss with them, and you can see there's pictures of things on the right there, discuss what their Louis Vuitton bag might be. What are the things that they would just love to have if they could? And there's sort of sometimes an irrational want for something. And mums and dads, you're not immune from this either, so make sure you're part of the discussion and sharing some of those wants that you might have too. Okay, the fourth activity is to watch the Module 2 Video 6, which is Understanding Needs and Wants. This is in the Teens program. Watch it with your kids. In this video, I go through what are needs, what are wants, and we also look at what is a reasonable allocation of income to needs, wants, and savings. So there's a very basic model that I use there as a guideline. Then we come to a really fun activity, and that is the M&M salary game. This used to be called, or this has actually been derived from a game called the Bean Salary Game, but I thought that M&Ms were a lot more fun. We always want excuses to buy a chocolate, so this is one. So you're going to have to print off the worksheet, buy yourself some M&Ms. You need at least 20 M&Ms for you and 20 M&Ms for each of your teens, so you probably need the biggest bag they've got. Then, what we're going to look at is playing the M&M game with your teens. So the M&Ms are the salary. You're moving out of home, so we then need to figure out, okay, how am I going to spend my M&Ms? How am I going to prioritize all my expenses so that I can get what I need within the 20 M&M salary? So that's task 3. A lot of fun. Please make sure that you do it. I'd love to have a photo of you guys playing the game because, again, that's great for other people to see you getting into it. Task number 4 is another Kahoot quiz to do with your kids. Please make sure that you've downloaded the apps onto your mobile devices and that your kids have it downloaded onto your mobile devices. You'll see a link to the game in the notes. You will also see the challenge pin, and then you can go through the Kahoot quiz with your teens and discuss the answers. As I've said before, there is a cheat. Cheat's probably a strong word, but there is a video for each of the Kahoot quizzes for you parents, which takes you through the answer to each question and why they're the answers to each question, so you can do a little bit of cramming before you sit down with your kids and go through this with them. So the 5th task is the Budget Masterclass. I was going to make setting up a Grandma's Jars budget part of this course, but then I realized, and having run quite a few courses now for teens, I realized that lots of teens just aren't ready to have a serious budget. Now, this doesn't have to be serious. In fact, the earlier you start with a very, very simple budget that's just got 2 or 3 expenses, the better. But what I did instead of having this as part of the course, I made it a bonus module down the bottom where for those teens that are ready, you can firstly register for the Grandma's Jars budget app on your PC or laptop. Really important, you've got to do it on your PC or laptop, because you've got to set up your budget first on the PC or laptop before you can use the mobile app. So there is a mobile app, but that only really allows you to record your expenses and track where your budget's up to. It doesn't allow you to set the budget up itself. So make sure that you register for the Grandma's Jars budget app. There is a link in the notes. So again, in the Putting It Into Practice challenge notes, there is a link there that you can use to get your free subscription to the Grandma's Jars budgeting app. What you then need to do is watch the bonus Budget Masterclass module. So this module goes through step by step how to set up your budget. So if you have any questions after going through the Budget Masterclass module, then please don't hesitate to ask questions on the Facebook page. It is really important to me that your kids have a good experience with budgeting, that they know how it works. So if you've got questions, please ask. I am also looking at doing a live workshop with teens via Zoom once a month to take them through any questions that they've got regarding Grandma's Jars, to show them on my screen how to do different things, to answer their questions, and to show them how to do their end of month summary process. So that will hopefully give them the opportunity to get over any obstacles or things that are holding them back. And the last thing that I need to do then, once their budget is set up, is download the Grandma's Jars mobile app, which they can find for both Android and iPhone. The final task, again, this is one that we will do every single week, and that is the curly questions. It's so important that you get your teens to ask these questions for you, because it is an opportunity for you to share some valuable lessons that you've learned regarding money through storytelling. So the first one is, Mum and Dad, how do you budget? / how do you manage your money? Now, I understand that you might not budget. That is perfectly okay if you do not budget, but you need to share with them why you don't budget. Share with them if you don't budget but you think you should. Tell them that. If you don't budget but you don't believe in it, tell them that, but tell them what you do believe in, so that they start to get some a philosophy around how they should be managing their money. The next question is, how will living to a budget help me? So this is your teen asking you, how will living to a budget help me, Mum and Dad? So again, you might not think they need to live to a budget, but if you do, it's important that you have some answers for them. Tell them, look, it's going to help you ensure that you've always got money there for your expenses. It's going to help ensure that you never have to go into debt or use consumer debt to buy things. It's going to help you save money for the future. Tell them why you think it's important to them. So the third question is, Mum and Dad, what is one expense that you struggle with? And by struggle with, I mean that you struggle to contain, that you would like to spend more and you really find a hard time keeping within a budget for it. For us, it is our household budget jar. So our household jar. So this is where we're allocating money for the gardening, and we're allocating money for, maintenance that goes on around the house, for household items and so on. There always seems to be another project to do. So So having to stick to a budget is really hard. You could easily spend hundreds and perhaps even thousands of dollars every month around the house or on the house and still not have it all done. So that's one area we struggle with. It's important that you have an area that you can talk to your kids about. So mum and dad, name one want you would hate to give up. For me, that would be chocolate, ice cream, and I know we said only one, but I'm giving you some suggestions. And also being able to go away just once a year for a week or two to the coast. I would hate to have to give that up. So that's my wants. What about you? It's really important that you share these things with your kids and have a discussion with your kids about it. It's also not a bad thing for you to ask these last two questions to sort of throw back at your kids and say, okay, but what about you? There we go. That's your homework or your challenge for week 2. I hope you can see that all of these challenges are quite a lot of fun, but they give you heaps of opportunity to talk about things without it being weird, without struggling for what to say. The discussions just naturally flow from the activities.